Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Friday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The schedule is out. We break it down. All 82 games. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Making Locked On Lakers first listen to every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always going to be free for you. It's never going to be locked behind some grotesque and obscene paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are pouring over the 82 game schedule release, 83 if they qualify for that. IST, the NBA Cup final. We will break all of it down. Big challenges, intriguing matchups when Pat Riley gets his statue. But first, Andy, I need to tell people that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I won't say this is Christmas Day for the summer, because I do think the first day of free agency is like off-season Christmas for people. But this is like a very significant holiday. The day the schedule is released, it causes a ton of excitement always around this time of year, Andy. And this year is no different. Plenty of intriguing stuff coming out of today's schedule drop.
We'll call it Halloween. A lot of celebration, a lot of festivity. And you don't need to go to church or temple or mosque or wherever. You just get to have fun with this. And for the time being, unlike the deadline or free agency or whatever, there are no immediate ramifications. Kind of like Halloween. You just get to go ham. And the worst thing that comes out of it is maybe a stomach ache.
Yep. So look, I mean, there are all kinds of places that you can start when it comes to a schedule release. The one thing that I think it always jumps out, at least of late, is that you can't look at a schedule for a Western Conference team and not go, wow, that's brutal. like when we talk about, Andy, the easy stretches or the good stretches and all that kind of stuff, none of it is easy. Like there are no 10 game stretches where you look at it and go like, wow, there are 8 bad teams in there. Like it just doesn't exist. And so, first and foremost, what is my reaction to the Lakers schedule? It's hard. It's very, very hard because they all are in the West.
Yeah, that's just life in the West. It's just a matter of easier versus easy. Like there are a few pockets of the schedule that I think get easier, but that's only because compared to the parts of the schedule that are an absolute bleep, like a B word that I'm not 100% sure I can say on this show, but
better not to.
Yeah, better not to. It's just rough, man. It is extremely difficult in the Western Conference. This is, I've said this now, the everydayers have heard me for probably 3 or 4 years at this point. Whenever the subject of LeBron and load management and taking games off and stuff like that gets mentioned, my answer is always they don't have the luxury of doing it. I mean, putting aside the fact that LeBron genuinely, and I think admirably, does not want to take games off unless absolutely necessary, or maybe it's the last game of the season and everybody's taking it off. You just don't have the luxury of doing that in the West too often, if at all, and getting yourself a 6 seed or higher, unless you are maybe OKC. I would say for the rest of the Western Conference, you're just going to have to bust your ass like every other schlub out there.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. And there are certain things people look at every year. How many back-to-backs is a team playing? Where are the big road trips? Where are the big home stretches and stuff like that? I always kind of like to look at those first 10 to 12 games or something like that, and just get a sense for how difficult it will be to get off to a good start. I mean, I remember those seasons a couple, 2-3 years ago, the Lakers had a couple years in a row where they just kept getting off to bad starts and putting themselves in a hole that you have to climb out of. and it's not where you want to be. Again, particularly given the difficulty of the conference. So if you want to like look at those first 10 games, they open with Golden State, they come back with Minnesota, got a nice, two off days between those games, both of them at home. First road game is against Sacramento. Third home game is Portland. So 3 of the first 4 are at home. Minnesota again. So 2 games with the Wolves in their first 5. Then you travel to Memphis. You get Miami at home. You're at Portland. You're San Antonio at home. And then you go on the first extended road trip of the year starting in Atlanta. So, when you look at those first 9 or 10 games, Andy, I know there's no such thing as an easy stretch. This is probably as doable of a 10-game stretch as I think you're going to find.
I was going to say, I think as far as opening stretches in the West go, that I guess for whatever reason didn't decide to open you against all Eastern Conference teams.
Right.
This is about as manageable as I think it's going to get realistically. You get the Warriors to open, and the Warriors are not going to be a pushover, but the Lakers have traditional over the last few seasons, they have played the Warriors very well. They've matched up well against them. I think they're going to be a better team than the Warriors anyway. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Minnesota. We know that's going to be difficult, but the Lakers are going to be playing them, the team that knocked them out in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to have a roster that, at least on paper, with more proven guys, I think has improved more than the Timberwolves, who lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and they're counting on some internal improvement and growth from guys like Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark, Rob Dillingham, who I think can be good players, but I think there are more unknowns about them than some of the Lakers being brought in.
Right. And more than that, I think too, the internal improvement, who got better, who got worse. It's just the Lakers got better in places in terms of what hurt them with the matchup.
Yes.
Against Minnesota.
Very much so.
So I think they should match up a little bit better. Granted that too, they did fine. If I remember correctly, they did okay against Minnesota in the regular season, just the playoffs where they got
right. And well, it's hard to know what to take away from that, because in the regular season, some of the success they had,
right,
I'm guessing off the top of my head, involved Anthony Davis and or Max Christie, and those guys are not there anymore. Mm-hmm. But 2 games against Portland, I think Portland is going to be better this year, but they on paper are still not better than the Lakers. The Lakers should be better than them. They should be able to beat Miami at home. I don't think Miami is going to be much better than a play-in team in the East. Memphis, I think, is still a team that we need to see exactly what they are. I think they're going to be solid, but I think the Lakers should be better than solid. Then the 10th game, for example, of the opening 10, you go to Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be better. That's still a home game for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Like every time the Lakers go to Atlanta, that is essentially a home game. Then game 11 is Charlotte. The Lakers better be able to kick the bleep out of them. So again, it is going to be tough, just because there's no such thing as easy life in the West. But I think you are correct that as far as what you could reasonably expect to open the schedule with some leeway while still giving you some information, because it's important to learn things in these first 10 games. I think this is about as good as Laker fans could have expected.
I think it's 7-4 is a very doable in those first 11. For example, I think 7-4 is a reasonable goal. Better than that, is great. A little bit, but like if you have that kind of start, say even 6-5, 7-4, somewhere in that neighborhood, 8-3 would be great. You're not hurting yourself. You don't want to hurt yourself over those first 10 or 15 games to where you are then trying to climb out of a hole, and I also like the mix. I mean, we'll get to some of the other little fun quirks in the schedule here, but I like the mix of teams they're playing. Golden State and Portland, for example, are stylistically very different teams. You get a team where, not that the Warriors can't play defense, but they operate on offense in a very different way than the Blazers will. The Blazers are an excellent and athletic stand to be an excellent defensive team, very athletic, very challenging to play. So I think it provides a certain kind of test. You get San Antonio with Victor Wembanyama, and I like this mix that they get before they go on the road, and then you see an improved Atlanta team, you see Oklahoma City and stuff like that. So a solid run of teams that they can win against, but have to play good basketball, which is, I think, about what you would want as a coaching staff. We'll get into some of the interesting schedule quirks, some other really difficult or easier stretches of the schedule. All of that coming up next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether 401ks, properties, investments. Get on it, people, by the way. And when you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your phone or your laptop. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart characterizations of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without even touching a spreadsheet. Like, as an example, my daughter is about to start high school, which means I asked her thinking about college and tuition, dorm expenses, and that stuff is daunting. Monarch Money can help me streamline my spending, figure out areas where I can be more efficient, save better, maybe not spend it all, and create a plan that is there for my next step. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year.
So one of the things that I know you do, I certainly do, when the schedule is released, I give it a quick look, and then I go over to Lakers.com, where Mike Trudell has very conveniently laid out all of the interesting stuff that I would otherwise have to do by hand. And so you get a lot of great information from Mike. Of course, does great work as the sideline reporter for Lakers broadcasts. And then in Spectrum Sportsnet, we see him on 710 ESPN Radio a lot. He's everywhere doing good work. Some interesting schedule bits for the Lakers. They do play one more back-to-back this year than last, 14 versus 13, but still not totally brutal. 3 of them are home back-to-back, so they're no travel. 3 of them have very short flights. So one's New Orleans to San Antonio. That's a quick flight. Sacramento to LA. So things like that. And then 6, I believe there was, that leaves 8 more where they have actual, sort of travel in between there. So back-to-backs is something that teams are looking at. And now also people look at not just the amount of back-to-backs that one team plays, but how often do you get an opponent who is playing on the second night of their back-to-back. And the Lakers get 1 fewer of those types of games than they will be, their back-to-back. So they come out basically even on that. They catch about the same amount of breaks as other teams get lucky playing them on the second night of a back-to-back. They did well in back-to-backs last year, though, particularly on the second night. So it's not necessarily an automatic, like, oh, they're going to lose, but it is worth noting, that's for sure.
Another scheduling quirk that Mike picked up on is, obviously we don't know for sure because the way the cup can shake out and when you get eliminated, who you play, if you get eliminated, who you play, if you advance all the way. Like those things create a little bit of uncertainty with your schedule. But for the time being, the Lakers play certain Western Conference teams 3 times, 6 of them, and they play 8 Western Conference teams 4 times. I will say this, if you are looking for some degree of, relatively speaking, a break in the Lakers' schedules of Western Conference teams, I think they play fewer of the best teams in the West 4 times. Like, for example, these are the Western Conference teams that they are guaranteed to play 4 times. Golden State, the Clippers, Phoenix, and Sacramento, obviously, because those are the Pacific Division teams. OKC, Dallas, but then the Pelicans and Utah. These are the ones that they play just 3 times, at least for the time being. Memphis, Minnesota, the Spurs, Denver, Houston, then also Portland. So several of the toughest Western Conference teams, the Lakers, at least for the time being, only face 3 times. So again, if you are looking for relative breaks insofar as being a Western Conference team, because there ain't many, that is at least a glass, I don't know, a quarter full. Still, it's still going to be a rough schedule.
One thing I find very weird about this one too is you set aside your weekends. If you want to follow Lakers basketball, set aside your weekends, because they play about half their games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 15 Saturday games, if I did the count correct, and then 17 more on Fridays and Sundays. So they play a lot of games on the weekend. So that is something to keep in mind as well. I was looking at the schedule, and one of the things I always kind of keep an eye out, Andy, for are long road trips. And I just look for at first I'm just looking at the at and where the big gaps are, like, oh, look, they're home. And so you go to sort of the end of January. The Lakers take a very long and very difficult road trip that goes Denver, technically at home, back against the Clippers, but still difficult team on their floor. Then Dallas, Chicago, Cleveland, Washington, New York, and Brooklyn. You get coast swing. That's 8 games away from your own building. For what it's worth, they have a home game on the 18th to 17th. They're at Portland. So that's a stretch of 9 of 10 outside of Crypto.com arena. And so that's a hard road trip. They take one of those every year. You got the East Coast blood and so on. And you're like, oh, well, then they come home, Andy. And you're like, well, look at that. They get like a 9-game home stretch. Everything's going to be fine. And then you look at the teams that they're playing in this. It's like, okay, great. You get off this long road trip and you come home and you're all excited. It goes Philadelphia, which could be a very easy game, but might not be, depending if this is the week and a half stretch of the season where the Sixers might be healthy. Then Golden State, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Dallas, Clippers, Boston, Orlando. Each one of those teams is either a playoff team, a championship hopeful, or in the case of Philly, we could call them a total wild card that still has 3 outstanding players. They just can't get them on the floor at the same time. So that is like, you come home off this long trip and you get that to look at as a 9-game stretch or so at home. That is brutal.
Here's another interesting road trip. It begins on it kicks off, or the last home game is Denver on March 14th. Then on the 16th of March, you play Houston on the road. 18th, also Houston on the road. So non back-to-back, but consecutive road games against Houston. Then Miami, which wouldn't necessarily be too tough, but you are going back-to-back Houston to Miami. Mm-hmm. That is a very long flight. Then at Orlando, at Detroit, at Indiana. And Indiana without Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner now in Milwaukee. I think Indiana is going to be a solid team, not great. And under normal circumstances, that might feel like a bit of relative relief to see them, except it's on the end of this very difficult and long, like distance-wise long road trip. So once again, there just are not many breaks. I think there's a lot in here that, again, as far as what you could realistically expect for the Lakers, it is about as fairly drawn up, about as non-arduous in terms of extreme back-to-backs, extreme travel. According to Mike Trudell, they are actually flying about 8. I
think it's 1,000 miles less than last year.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. 1,000 miles less than last year. It's 8,000 miles below the most traveled team in the West. I don't know which one it is. All I know is that team's flying around 8,000 miles more than the Lakers, and about 3,000 above the Western Conference team that will fly the fewest miles. So they knocked off 1,000 miles from last year's travel. Again, there's a decent amount.
The NBA generally has just done a better job, like doing things like you mentioned. They will now play consecutive games against one team. Let a team stay in one city. The Lakers host a doubleheader, so to speak, against Memphis, for example, at the beginning of January. You mentioned that they play 2 games in Houston in March, like that kind of thing where they never used to do that, where you let a team stay in a city to play the same team twice. That just didn't happen, and now it does. The NBA is figuring out ways to try to cut down, I think, on travel. And then you like the NBA Cup opens up some interesting. I forgot to mention this when we were talking about like how the Lakers can push at the beginning of the season. There's a really interesting stretch for the Lakers where they play Milwaukee on Saturday, the 15th of November, and play one game between the 15th of November and the 23rd when they play at Utah. And that is a home game on Tuesday, the 18th. So they go
against Utah.
They go Saturday the 15th at Milwaukee, Tuesday at home, the 18th against Utah, and then don't play again until Sunday, the 23rd at Utah. So like that's like getting a little bit like almost like an AllStar break in February or in November. So,
and two, if they take Utah seriously and don't play down to them and control that game decisively from the beginning, the way they certainly should on paper, that could turn into a game where Luca, LeBron, Austin, Rui, Ayton, those guys play 30 minutes, maybe 28 minutes. And then it turns into, I don't want to say a break inside the game because you're playing basketball, but in relative terms, it's sort of a break within the break.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like there are these little moments where you sort of think about it, like, can the Lakers, sorry, I just saw some BC wrote, go Dodgers on the chat. So I saw that and started to talk about the Dodgers. Can the Lakers get off to a good start, then use that mini break to kind of recharge? Like there are all these little stretches around the season that you have to wonder how the Lakers coaching staff will think of it strategically. Will they use that to practice? Practice time. This is one of these things that sort of people often forget about in the NBA. Like practice time is rare. Once the season starts, teams don't get to practice nearly as much as I think sort of the expectation is. And so to have that week, if the Lakers are struggling with something, if they are having a little trouble getting rhythm or whatever it might be, to have that week where you can get 3 or 4 practices in without really even taxing your guys that much, that is a huge luxury for the coaching staff.
And in the meantime, there are some games that I have marked as what I think are interesting storyline games. So we'll get into that coming up next. So taking a look at some of the games in the schedule that I found interesting just from a storyline look, on the 24th, we already mentioned it briefly, but the 24th of October, they're going to be playing their first game against the Timberwolves. It is obviously a playoff rematch, but like we noted earlier, very different roster for the Lakers and one better suited to at least deal with some of the issues they had against the Wolves in the playoffs. It is also the first game on Amazon Prime of the season for the Lakers, a thing we're just going to have to get used to saying and thinking, like the game on Amazon Prime, and stop thinking about, is this a TNT game or not? Because the answer to all of them is no, it's not a TNT game.
I hope that means, because by the way, when we talk about what a TNT, like for most people, like, oh, is that a TNT game? They're thinking is that Kenny and the gang, whatever. For people who cover it, it's this game is going to take 40 minutes longer than a normal one will. So I'm hoping that Amazon Prime means like it's not going to take that much longer. Like I hope the broadcasts on Peacock aren't unnecessarily 27 minutes longer than a game needs to be, because that's how it always managed to be with the TNT thing. I don't even care. Like, set aside the broadcasters' questions about the pregame show and stuff like that, which we've talked about. I'm all about running time right now.
We're all getting older. On November 12th, they go to OKC. It's the first game against the truest measuring stick team, the defending champs, a team that the Lakers actually played very well in the Luca era. They beat them once, then they were on the verge of beating him again before Luca was ejected for playfully jawing back and forth with a fan, which a moronic rabbit ears ref thought was directed at him, and tossed Luca. It was ridiculous. The Lakers ended up losing that game, but I think they were on their way towards winning it. But either way, it is always useful to see how you stack up against the defending champs. So the Lakers are going to see that. On November 25th, you got your first game against the Clippers. They've done a good job of late evening out this series, because there was a long stretch where the Clippers were just waxing them. But I think they're roughly at the same tier in the West. The Lakers and Clippers, they're likely going to be jockeying for position. These are two teams that at minimum are trying to avoid the play-in. Then on November 28th, health assumed, this is the final scheduled cup game for the Lakers. Anthony Davis playing against the Lakers in LA for the first time. He's played against the Lakers before, but that was in Dallas. The big story, the overarching story, was Luca's return. He vastly outplayed Anthony Davis, and the Mavs got smoked in that game. And I imagine AD is going to be very motivated to have a better showing personally and for his team in LA against the Lakers. This one I think is interesting. December 23rd, it's the first game of the season in Phoenix. And obviously, I know this is not DeAndre Ayton's first time in Phoenix since he left, but it is his first time as a member of a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And the Suns have been disappointing since DeAndre Ayton. They jettisoned him, and they did not part ways on very good terms. So I am curious to see how much DeAndre Ayton seems motivated to give Phoenix double middle fingers while backed by a much better team than the past ones he visited Phoenix. On the 20th of January, they go to Denver. We talked before about that long road trip, but they've done a better job of removing the boogeyman factor with Denver last season, but it's still a matchup that's instructive. I'm also curious. We've talked about this before, Brian, for all the talk about Jokic and for a while AD versus Jokic. I'm curious to see how much changes for the Lakers specifically without Michael Porter Jr., because that's the guy that I think has actually been the real problem for the Lakers, like game to game to game.
Well, I mean, he's been a matchup problem when he's playing well. He's a matchup problem for everybody, because you think of him because he is such a perimeter-oriented player. It's not, you don't rarely see Michael Porter Jr. at the bucket. He's so flippin' tall. Like he's just a terrible matchup, because most teams don't have somebody that they can stick on somebody that tall who can get in the way of his shot. Because if you do, he's guarding a center. He's guarding a different forward. To have that luxury, for Denver as is their third or fourth best player sometimes. It's just a really tough cover, and the Lakers have struggled with that. It was interesting. I will say one thing is the Lakers do have two 8 p.m. starts on local starts, like local time, 8 o'clock, which is, and one I think at 8:30. But like a couple really late starts in LA, which is, you rarely see something after 7:30. So I'm curious how those play out in terms of both a TV product and if that has any effect on how players kind of got there's so much creatures of routine. And then I also noticed that the Lakers have 3 games during rivalry week. None of them are against Boston, which I guess some people would have assumed, but
there's a Boston thing coming up that we'll talk about.
Right. There are a lot of reasons too. It's like, especially with the Eastern Conference teams, you only get 2 of those games. So, scheduling in these sorts of gimmick weeks, for lack of a better term, is a challenge. But I will say this: they get Denver, the Clippers, and who's the third team? I think it's Houston is the third team in rivalry week. Point being here, it's all of them. Like there is no team near the top of the Western Conference that you look at and say the Lakers don't make sense to be playing in rivalry week. Every team wants the Lakers during rivalry week. It's just a matter of whether or not Lakers fans think of them as a rival.
Well, the league has decided what the Lakers feel passionately about, apparently. January 24th, the Lakers go to Dallas. Obviously, we've already seen Luca back in Dallas, but this is the first time, at least in theory, we will see Luca in Dallas with his revenge
Dallas.
body.
I would say Dallas is the third team during rivalry week. Which
right.
makes a lot of sense.
He is in Dallas with the theoretical ability. He obviously has to maintain things. But we've talked about before, Brian, we're both pretty bullish about Luca's commitment to what he's done in the summer and maintaining. I am 100% confident about him at least maintaining it long enough to show off a little leg in Dallas and show Nico and all those people up close. You know, basically the ex that viciously dumped him. He wants to make sure what they're missing. I'm pretty sure
he may not even wear a jersey that game.
He may not wear clothes. He may just not wear clothes.
Luca wearing a loincloth, and that's it.
January 28th, the Lakers go to Cleveland. You think there might be some insane speculation hovering over this one? It's an ESPN game. Like Stephen A. Smith has already on First Take suggested that the Cavs trade for LeBron, not examining how, or acknowledging it's damn near impossible, but that thing is going to be out of control. It's an ESPN game on top of it. They both work for ESPN, but they are not above hyping the living crap out of this thing. February 1st, they go to New York. Substitute everything I just said about Cleveland, cut and paste New York. Same thing, same speculation. They play February 5th on trade deadline day. So we'll find out who's still on the team. Everybody gets to exhale. And then February 22nd, the Lakers hosting the Celtics. That is the day that Pat Riley gets his statue. The Lakers have announced Pat Riley will get a statue in the plaza with all the other Laker greats, obviously well deserved. Phil Jackson, I imagine, will be the next guy in line. And while it could make more direct line sense to do this earlier in the season when the Heat are in town, because that even if Riley, because of age, doesn't travel with the team all the time, I imagine he travels.
If they told him that we were giving you your statue, they'll.
Well, but I just meant more.
He'll come out.
Probably goes to LA because he has a home here. Like
he might not. But if he wasn't planning, if they said we're going to put if that's the night you're getting your statue, he'll get on the flight.
Right, but I'm saying it could make more direct line sense for the Miami game, but I imagine they just want to do this with Boston in town, the biggest rival of Riley's career as a player or as a coach or as an exec. Like maybe all of his exec stops, arguably. People may remember when he was Heat president and Danny Ainge was criticizing LeBron, and the Heat put out a statement. Like they actually had somebody from the Heat formally read this. Quote, Danny Ainge needs to shut the bleep up and manage his own team. He was the biggest whiner going when he was playing, and I know that because I coached against him. That was a formal statement from the Heat that they had someone read out loud to the press. So this is a fun setting for Riley to get that statue. It's great, clever points. It's a fun way to get a league exec from another team to root against your opponent mentally, if not openly, because we know Riley will be rooting for the Lakers to beat the Celtics.
Long speech. So
just
settle
in
in.
Blood.
Riley's that is not going to be a brief Gettysburg Address style address from.
he'll address the Lakers pregame.
But like that speech when he gives that is gonna be a long speech. Anyway, Locked On Lakers on YouTube. Let us know what you think about the schedule. Leave us questions, leave us comments. Locked On Lakers on YouTube, where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers. Do not forget, if you are not an audio subscriber, you should be. So go over to Apple, search on Locked On Lakers, make that a daily download. Go to Spotify, however you like to get your podcasts. Make sure we are your first listen of every day. We'll see everyone on Monday.